Most men are not nice guys. They're simply scared little boys who learned that it wasn't safe to be themselves. This is where the majority of men are operating from today. A nice guy persona is a survival strategy, nothing more. It is a manipulation to get people to like you, to accept you, to be whoever you have to be to get that approval and acceptance. It is a deep conditioning of external validation seeking. Now that gets very deep in the psyche, and it colors your entire world from the time you're a little boy all the way up until being an adult man. And we think we're sovereign, we think we're free, we think we have agency, but really these things are painting the whole picture, right? These are deeply unconscious. Even if you've been doing this work for a while, this is still going to affect you. I had to put in a shit ton of work just to get to that place of knowing myself and who I was beyond that, and how he thinks and how he shows up in the world and the way that he operates day to day. Only through a curiosity of finding out who you, confronting that part, that survival part, can you actually know who you are beyond it. So this is all around people pleasing, seeking approval, avoiding conflict, self-abandonment. You learn early on that your needs don't really matter, right? And everything just becomes about fitting in. Let me paint a picture here of how this occurs. For me, it started in second grade. I'm in a DARE class. This is when the program first started, right? I'm in second grade. This guy comes in, he starts giving this talk on how, certain things need to be painful, but they're actually good for you, like getting a shot at the doctors. I raise my hand and I go, "What about when the doctor squeezes your nads?" I didn't even think, I just said it to be funny, and the whole class erupted in laughter. And this guy picked me up out of my chair, brought me outside, slammed me against the lockers. And he was a big human, and he just looks right in my eyes, and he's like, "Don't you ever try to take over my class again." And I can still remember that I was shaking, like the amount of fear. I had never felt that in my life up to that point from an adult before. Then when I went back in the classroom, my teacher also screamed at me. She called me over to her desk, and she was so angry. She had spit coming out of her mouth, and it was going all over my face. So that was the first time I really learned, okay, that authenticity and just speaking your mind like that is not cool. It's not safe. You have to keep that in from this point on, right? And then third grade, a year later, and remember, these are very impressionable, powerful years, right? 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I was at recess, and I was always the captain with this other guy for sports stuff. And we got into this huge argument. Long story short, he basically posed the question, if you want to be on his team and you're siding with him on this, then go over with him. But if you want to be with me, you want to take my side on this, like, come over to my side. And almost everybody on my team left. Almost everybody walked over to him because they saw him as the superior, athlete, or, he was winning the argument, whatever it was. But I was basically standing there by myself. And at that point, I made a decision. I'm not going to be in this role anymore. I'm not going to be in any form of leadership. I'm not going to be in any position where I could get abandoned like this, where I could feel this humiliated and this embarrassed. And it was at that point I made a very visceral inner agreement and decision I'm going to be the guy who everybody likes no matter what. This is never going to happen again. I'm going to be the nice guy that just fits in, that just agrees with everyone, that everyone feels safe around, and I'm going to just completely surrender my authenticity. That's how traumatic these experiences were for me. So, right, these experiences happen, and then you start to go into adolescence. You start to get more of a sense of self. You start to come into this place where your emotions are very strong, and you're trying to find, your place in the world and in your peer groups. And those beliefs that got in as a child, those agreements of, I'm going to be the guy that everybody likes. I'm going to wear the mask that says See, look, there's nothing here that you could possibly dislike. Look how agreeable I am. I'm never going to upset you. I'm the guy that you feel safe around. And that energy follows you into every area of your life, dating, work, all of your relationships, just the way that you show up to the world. Your energy is, look at me, I'm the likable guy. I just want to fit in. I'm just going to do what everybody else does. And so many men have gotten caught in this and wear this mask. Because as little boys, we are deeply intuitive beings, and we're sensitive and we're empathic. But we had to squash that because of these experiences, and because our dads and the society around us tells us that to be men, you can't have that side. That's not okay to have that. You got to suck it up, figure it out. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a pussy. Don't show emotion. Don't be vulnerable. That intuitive side is not valued as a man in this culture, right? So we learn to shut down that entire side of us. We suppress the shit out of our emotions, and that rage and that just chronic self-abandonment towards ourselves, it starts to build up like a volcano, right? But we learn that anger is not okay. I learned that anger is not good for my parents. Whoa, my parents punish me when I show that anger. Oh, my friends get upset when I show that anger. Whatever that is, you learn to bottle it up and you keep it all inside of you. Maybe every now and then you get in your car and you lose your shit. That's how men of today think that's how they have to handle this. Bottle it all up, have an explosive experience in your car, and then I'm good again. I'm glad that at least it's coming out a little bit, but it's not even close to dealing with the root of this issue, right? So let's continue on with the story. Those experiences happen. I form those agreements. I wear that mask. Then I become a teenager. My rage is bottling up. And I was a small human. I hit puberty super late, so I had very deep levels of insecurity in myself. And I just didn't really feel that safe in the world. Like everybody, all the guys around me are getting bigger and stronger. Their voices are changing. And I'm just like, hey. And so the one thing that made me feel powerful in any capacity was the rage inside of me. I had this like Wolverine rage, which is why he was my favorite character on X-Men. Because I resonated with that, right? Things that you watch as a kid, certain characters, you'll resonate with them because there's a deep understanding. But you don't recognize that when you're just a little boy, right? But Wolverine for me was like when people mess with him, his rage would come up and he would just destroy all the Sentinels, any enemies that were in the vicinity. He's taking you down, and he could heal fast. So I had this sense of that bottled rage inside of me could keep me safe. I literally had this belief that if anyone physically tried to harm me, that I could let this out and it would take care of it. And that gave me this really sort of like false sense of confidence that worked. And actually nobody really ever physically bullied me. And I think it was because I had that inside of me. And then we have family situations at home. Like for me, my brother was deeply bipolar. And so the emotions in my house were just so chaotic. And it was so like at any moment a blow up could occur. Just a crazy emotional outburst. The dinner table was like 8 times out of 10, there's going to be a blow up. And so for me, it was like another agreement was made. I'm not going to add to this. I'm going to be in control of my stuff. I'm not going to show the things that I'm feeling because there's already enough chaos here. And I'm not going to be someone, I don't want to do that to my parents. I don't want to do that to this environment, to my other little brother. Right? So just sinking deeper into the nice guy, deeper. And now on top of that, the insecurity, like I hated myself. I looked in the mirror and I was disgusted by what I saw. And I think a lot of it had to do with the way that I was abandoning myself and the masks that I was wearing. There was something, the suppression of that truth deep within me created a very powerful resentment towards myself. And I didn't let myself express. Like I always remember my neighbor who I was good friends with early on when I was like 6. He just had all the traits of what we would consider a you would look at him and say, that's a future gay man. But he was so free. Like, we would watch movies and he'd be jumping on the couch and dancing and singing. And there was a part of me that envied that. I was like, I want to be that free. But then his older brother would come in and be like, Matthew, you are so gay. Like, you are so gay. Stop doing that. And again, I made another agreement. Like, all right, it's not cool to let yourself be free like that. And by the way, this kid did not give a shit about anyone saying that about him. And that was another thing I envied. Anyways, back to the teenage years. All of this comes together, right? So I got bottled up rage. It's giving me a sense of protection. I think I maybe got in 2 fights ever, and I let that rage come out. And it was like, I was surprised how easy it was to win those fights. And so it gave me, that rage was like, I'm your protector, man. You might feel insecure in the world about yourself, but at least you have this thing that'll take care of if anyone physically tries to harm you, okay? I would fantasize about what would happen to people, what I would do to people if they ever physically messed with me or bullied me. And I would just be up in the clouds, like fantasizing about this all the time of like, oh, I dare you to fuck with me. You have no idea what's inside of me, do you? And even the bigger kids, like, that were substantially physically superior to me, it didn't matter. I was like, I don't care how tall you are, how big you are. This will freak you out. You've never seen anything like this. But yet, on the surface, hey, I'm Mr. Nice Guy. Yeah, but that rage inside of me, and let me tell you a story about that. So I'm 19 or 20 years old. I'm working at a beer warehouse for the summer. I'm in college. I had been late a bunch of times, and my boss had scolded me for it. So he basically was like, you can't be late again. And so I'm behind this man. I left my house late to go to work that night. I'm behind this guy that is just driving well below the speed limit, like absurdly. And I'm already running late, and we're on this road where I cannot pass him for like 10 minutes. And I can't even tell you this, I've never felt this rage come to the surface like that. I literally was punching my steering wheel. I was like, motherfucker. And we finally got to a red light, a 4-way red light. And I jumped out of my car with every intention of pulling this guy out of his window and beating the living shit out of him. For all intents and purposes, that it was 100% going to happen. I had no other possibility in my mind. I went up to his window, and the man that looked up at me was this little Asian man, and I've never seen someone look more terrified. And right when we locked eyes, for like a second, we looked at each other, and then he just floored it. And he went through the red light and just barely missed 2 other cars T-boning him. I mean, it was so close, it was absurd. Like, my heart stopped. I got back in my car, realizing I almost just could have caused the deaths of multiple people because of this unchecked rage. I drove to work the rest of the way, bawling my eyes out. And I made another decision then and there. That uncontrolled Hulk type of rage can never come out again, because the consequences could destroy my life, the lives of people around me. And so I bottled it up more. Then I got to a point in my early 20s where I got really into personal development. I got really into building personal confidence, my communication. I started to feel really good about myself, right? But I wasn't addressing any of the stuff underneath, the shadows, the agreements. I was just in this false sense of egoic confidence of like, I'm feeling really good about myself. Like, look, see, I'm improving. I'm reading all these books. I'm watching all these videos. I'm taking these courses. Look at me, feeling great. That doesn't do anything to the root issues of what's going on and keeping you in that nice guy persona. You're still wearing the mask. You're still in that place of your energy is saying, please like me. But now there's a little bit of confidence mixed in with that, right? So it's a little more doable. And then there was a moment where everything started to change. In 2013 or so, I started to have a spiritual awakening. I started to look at the world around me and say, wow, nothing is what I thought it was. My view of God, my view of the societal structure, the view of myself, all of these things started to come into question. And I was like, I don't really even know what's real anymore. But I can see the lies, like beyond the matrix, like that moment where Neo pops out and he's like, oh my God, nothing is what I thought it was. I started to go through that. I listened to a podcast with Aubrey Marcus on Joe Rogan talking about his ayahuasca experience. I have never locked into anything that I've listened to, anything that I've watched that much ever in my life. There was something in my soul that was like, you need to listen to every word of this. And by the end of that, I made a life-changing decision without even thinking about it. I went to the website, to Blue Morpho, and I signed up for an Amazon jungle ayahuasca retreat with that company. And I bought an airplane ticket. I basically blacked out and did all of this. And I spent all the money that I had. And I was like, I popped out of it and I was like, what did I just do? Right? So that's a whole story in itself. But the thing I want to share around this is when I went to the jungle and I was in my third night of ceremony, I had a massive death experience, right? And all of my deepest fears that I could have ever imagined came to the surface. All of the false masks, all of those agreements, all of the fears and insecurities that I felt as a child and as a teenager and the deep self-hatred, it all came to the front. And I had to confront the rage monster. When the shaman came around, Don Alberto, that protector, because that's what it is, right? It's a protector. That was the thing that made me feel safe in the world. That was the only thing that made me feel safe. And so it's like, who would I be without that? Would I be able to feel safe in the world without that? And that ceremony was about purging that protector so that I could become a man who no longer needed that rage monster to feel safe or powerful or protected in the world. And so that got ripped out, and it was like this golem, kind of like demonic sludge thing. And it was like, you need me. And I'm just pushing it out of my chest. One of the most intense experiences I've ever had in my life. And after that, I was so vulnerable. I was so shooken up. I was traumatized. Right? I felt naked. I felt like I don't know who I am anymore. I don't feel safe with anything. And when I talked to one of the shamans the next day, he read me like a book. I had never told anybody in my life about this rage inside of me and its dynamic, our relationship. This guy knew all of it. He read it in my energy field, and he said to me, he's like, oh, you thought that you could do your personal development, did you? And it would just go away. He was Australian. You thought you could just throw it down in the basement and have a jolly go at life and you'd forget all about it. Nope. Not how it works. Just the fact that he knew that and he was so spot on, like, took me out of the frame that I was in, the fear. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'm listening. And yes, it was like I just tried to forget about all that stuff and move on. And still stay in that without realizing that those masks and those coping strategies were going to stay with me the rest of my life unconsciously if I didn't do something. And so when he said that, I went from like traumatized, I'm going to leave this place, I'm never going to touch this medicine again. Within 30 seconds of him saying that, I was back in a place of like, all right, I'm good. I know, I remember, and I'm ready to go back in and dive even deeper to the ceremony. So long story short, I got back home. I realized that my entire life had been created from that persona. Do what everyone else is doing, fit in, be liked, all that stuff. And I had to throw it all away. I had to completely throw it all away so that I could even have an opportunity to know who I actually was. And I know for a fact that a lot of men are in this position right now where they are being confronted and asked by their soul to know who they are without those primordial fears, those protective masks that they wear in society, maybe even to their closest relationships, where they have to ditch the nice guy. And they have to source their own power and purpose from within because it's built into you. It's there, guys. That's the amazing part. But the old you doesn't know that. It doesn't realize it. And in order to get there, you have to let go of everything that you've known. You have to put down the mask and you have to face off with these agreements. You got to face your fears. You got to rise your consciousness out of the survival energy systems, right? Your root chakra, your sacral. Your awareness is down in the me, survival, fuck, eat, kill, sleep. Society tries to keep men down there, locked in through their sexual energy, through the survival energy, money, so that you can never ascend and know who you are. Connect with the divine that's in your heart and that's in your third eye. That's what we're kept from. Society, the people that have tried to control the narrative for so long, this is all by design. They want men stuck down there. They want men to go and fight their battles for them for no reason and be killed and take orders and be obedient. They don't want sovereign men who are leading their own lives, deciding things for themselves, knowing who they are, and being connected to source, being connected to God, universe, whatever word you have for that governing force that has created all of this. They don't want you connected to that because your heart is going to lead you. Your heart is not affected by the fear that's going to keep you making decisions from a place of survival. If you're making choices from survivalism and fear, guess what? You will only ever have that, and you will never know who you are. It doesn't have to be this crazy dramatic thing where you do what I did and you just quit everything and sell all your shit and move across country and have no plan. You have to do it like that. That's actually not that wise. I, for my own initiation, needed to go through that particular way, in large part because now I'm helping men to go through this process, which is the individuation process, as Carl Jung highlights and guys like Bill Plotkin and others. This is how you cross the threshold to know who you are. And every man has to go through it. It's like Jung said, or not Jung, it's like as Joseph Campbell said, who's the guy who introduced us all to the arc of the hero's journey. The cave that you fear to enter holds all of your treasures. We've all heard some form of that in one way or another, and yet we don't enter the cave. Like, what if King Arthur, in that archetypal story, if he just tried to pull the sword and it didn't come out, right? And he's like, oh, well, I guess I'm not powerful. And then he walked away and he kept his masks on and he just lived a mediocre, average Joe life. And he was a squire and he never became a king. That is us. We follow the path of safety, but yet there's deep resentment towards ourselves for not going on the hero's journey. There is deep self-hatred, guilt. I don't want to be this nice guy. I don't want to wear that mask anymore, but I'm afraid to go beyond that. What if people leave me? What if I'm abandoned? What if my partner leaves me and doesn't love me anymore? What if I lose my closest friends? These are all of the fearful thoughts that keep men in that place. And instead, they bottle it all up, right? And then they might see a retreat space. They might see a brotherhood community, and the immune system of that false persona might judge it and be like, no, that's gay. No, that's not for me. No, it'll come up with all the good excuses and judgments to keep you from doing it. That is simply an immune response to an identity that is killing you, to an identity that is keeping you in a place that makes you want to kill yourself. Why do we think we have all these suicides going on? Why is there all this massive depression amongst men? Why are all the crimes done by all these men? Bottled up rage. They're owned by the false persona, and they think that they can just continue on and let that be. Well, I'm here to tell you, those dead bodies that you've thrown in the basement, there's a flood now, which is the Aquarian age, which is this age that we're in right now. There's a pressure that's bringing up all of those dead bodies to your front door, to that first floor where you've been happily avoiding all of that stuff. You can't do it anymore. You are going to have to find a way to deal with the root cause here. And I can tell you right now, the best way to do that is with a brotherhood. It is with community. It is with other men in that same process, because this is very deep and it's not easy. There's a simplicity to it, but it's not easy. And guess what? It is worth every goddamn step to go on that path so that you get to know who it is you actually are with beyond that nice guy bullshit. It's so manipulative, right? And that was the other piece I left out. I meant to say it earlier. My dating life. I dated safe. I dated the safest women who I felt like weren't going to abandon me or reject me. And then so that always felt flat. That didn't feel exciting or aligned because I was starting from that place. And it was this like cushy, comfortable relationship. And then when things did come up, it was like, well, I'm this nice guy and like, I'm not going to trigger you and you're safe with me. And I'm just swallowing all my feelings and not sharing how I really feel about stuff. It's all this friend zone energy, right? This friend zone energy that is not sexy to women. And guess what? Women are mirrors of life. So when you're a man and you have a friend zone energy that you're broadcasting unknowingly, the nice guy energy, life looks at you the same way a woman would look at you. That doesn't turn her on. That doesn't do anything for her. Maybe you're just a guy that can help her with things that she needs from time to time. And then life's the same way. You're not turning life on because you're not turned on, and it's mirroring that back to you, right? It's giving you more reasons to resent yourself. It's giving you more of that, the consequences of being a nice guy back to you, which is a life of unhappiness, a lack of fulfillment, a lack of purpose, and a dullness. And it's a limp dick energy, right? And that probably happens to a lot of men in the bedroom because it's all connected, right? It's not an accident. I used to go through that too. My energy, my life force wasn't moving. It was all being suppressed. And that bleeds into everything, gentlemen. I can promise you that. So if you're having relationship issues, you're having physical issues like that, you're not happy and not joyful and not pleased with the way that your life looks, there's probably a part of you that's resigned to think that's just going to be the rest of the way for me. And guess what? Your dad probably had that. Your grandfather probably had that because they didn't have the consciousness, the awareness to see these deeper layer things, which we finally do. They didn't have access to that. God bless them. Holy shit, that would be a dark place to stay in your whole life. But you don't have to be there anymore. That doesn't have to be you. You get to do the work. You get to be aware. You get to confront these things so that you can know who you are and build a life around that. And you get to see and experience the fulfillment of expressing who it is that you were created to be and the way that you fit into this unique puzzle piece that is life. You were designed specifically to be here to help with some of the issues that are going on to advance the evolution of this planet, of the human story. Yes, you have a part of it. Stop denying that. Stop pretending like you don't. Stop staying in the comfort place of, well, I don't know my purpose and I'm confused and I'm lost and I don't know what I'm here for. That is a very clever egoic strategy of that nice guy persona to stick around. That doesn't want to die. So it keeps you in clouded clarity and confusion so that you can just passively say, well, I don't have direction, so I'm just going to keep going with what I've known and stay in the familiar. And that's bullshit. And the resentment inside you is going to build, and eventually you're going to explode. You're going to have a health issue. The relationship's going to, your partner's going to leave you. That your family dynamic's going to fall apart because it's all a lie. The exciting, beautiful part of this is when you start to align and walk your path, everything that is meant for you is going to come in. The relationships that come into your life are going to be aligned authentically, and that's going to feel like the greatest thing you've ever felt in your life. It's like soul family. I've known this person for a couple of weeks, and it feels like I've known them forever, for 20 years, more than people I've known for 20 years. Because those people were bonded on the masks that they were all wearing, that they were all in agreement with. You're going to attract in the relationship that's authentically aligned to you. Life is going to mirror that which you have become. It's going to give you the things that you need. It's going to give you the opportunities. Your mind's going to be renewed into that new place of higher consciousness. Your pineal gland starts to activate. You're raising your energy out of the survival centers into your heart, which doesn't hold fear, which is in a place of conviction. This is who I am. This is where I'm going, and this is who I serve. This is my purpose. And I feed all my energy and attention to that instead of just looping in the bullshit, staying in the fear, and continuing to wear that fucking nice guy mask, right? Time for that's over, okay? We have started, because of the journey that I've been on with this, and I've been obsessive about it, to try to find how I deal with this root cause. After a lifetime of being a nice guy, I've dedicated my life to this. I help other men on their individuation process so that they don't continue this anymore, because this is turning into a big problem. Look at our world right now. Those who have controlled things are bullying us. They're basically saying, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And most men are turning a blind eye to it and being like, no, well, I'm just going to keep this facade going, this charade, and I'm just going to be unhappy inside, and I'm just going to try to figure it out, and maybe I'll go to therapy and talk about it, and, maybe that'll help a little bit. Nope. This is calling for deep level initiation. And you need to know that you're not alone, and you need to be in community with other men who can support you on this, because it's a very, like I said, it's a deep process. We created the Elemental Man community for this specific reason, because we know this is a massive time on the planet, and it is requiring us as men to step all the way in and participate and engage and become who we're supposed to be here. The time of avoidance is closing right now, yesterday. We can't afford to do it. And in community, it's going to accelerate this process faster than anything else. You're going to find the men that you feel super connected to, that you see yourself in, and you're going to realize you're not alone. And that lone wolf bullshit's going to go away, right? And we're going to come together. We're going to have our council calls where we sit by the fire and we address all this shit. And we allow that scared little boy and that confused, fearful teenager to come up, so we can heal them, so we can integrate those shadows, right? So if you saw this in any capacity as a podcast on Spotify, as a YouTube video, as something on social media, and you don't know the power of men's work in these community spaces, or even just how to go about starting this, we got it all here for you. We've designed it this way. We've got the tools, we've got the processes, we've got the support. Everything's here. We did that on purpose because it gets overwhelming. It feels like there's so much. But this is a step-by-step process, right? This is a reclaiming. This is a complete letting go. It's all subtraction because everything's already in there. Truly, you already are healed, whole, complete. And we're just removing all of the places that were brought in error. Right? That are the fears, the distortions, the belief systems from childhood and teenage years that aren't working. We get to lay those down now, and we're going to help you do that. So if this spoke to you, join our Elemental Men's community. This is a global network. This is a movement that we truly believe is going to be the thing that helps to change this planet, because it's men doing this work and coming together in this way that are going to stand up and tell the control systems, fuck you. We're not doing that. Hell no. You're not doing this to our kids. You're not doing this to our planet. We're awake. We're here. The wool is not in our eyes anymore. You can't keep doing this. That is what's going to make a difference, truly. And I'm excited to connect with you and also to see who it is that you become on this journey and the way that you fit in to the solution for all of this. You get to find that. It's always been within you, always has. So join our community. We'd love to have you. And if not, join some community. Step in somewhere. Take that, plunge yourself in. You got to do it. Stop avoiding it. Okay? And guess what? It's fun. It's fun to face off with these things too. Yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's like, ugh. But it's also fun. We're laughing. We're not taking things too seriously. We're telling jokes. The things that men would normally do around a fire, also in the context of deep generational healing. All of it's together. So that's what I wanted to share for today, my brothers. If this landed, like I said, don't hesitate. Jump in. It's all here waiting for you. Big love, and we'll see you soon.